Arratsalde on, muy buenas tardes a todos. El Festival de San Sebastián y Jaeger-LeCoultre han impulsado este año un nuevo galardón para reconocer la trayectoria de figuras destacadas del cine latino. La marca de relojes suiza, Jaeger-LeCoultre, lleva colaborando con este festival ya 5 años y este año han querido afianzar esa relación con la concesión de este galardón en apoyo del cine latinoamericano.
In this first edition, the Jaeger-LeCoultre will be given to the Latin American film, the actor, director, and film producer García Bernal. The award will be given this evening in the presentation gala of the film Neruda, directed by Pablo Larraín, that will participate in the Pearls section of the festival. First of all, let's have a press conference with the award winner, Gael García Bernal, and then we will commence the press conference with the entire cast and crew of the film. Let's receive Gael García Bernal, who is receiving the award this evening.
Ya tomamos café, ya estamos ya en otra. ¿Qué tal? ¿Me siento o...? ¿Sí? Siéntese. Nos sentamos. Dale. Gracias.
Bueno, si nos dejáis.
Okay, please, photographers, if you'll allow us, let's commence. The questions. John Hopwell, The Variety. Hola. How are you? Magnificent. It seems to me that the first Jaeger-LeCoultre award is given to someone who's more known as an actor, but also who's a producer, director, and he uses his fame to a certain extent to drive some of the most interesting films that are being made in Latin America. I ask Gael whether you could talk quite briefly of what you've already got on your agenda to illustrate this multifaceted man that you are, and as we say in Hollywood, hyphenate. To talk about what I've said, no, that would be a bit much. Please choose a couple of things that what you're doing now, for example, production plans or directing and acting. Well, to taking a full advantage that I have a sort of an enormous hangover, not from alcohol, but from flying in a plane, because yesterday I flew all night in this enormous flight from America all the way here, which leaves at midday and you get here at about 6 a.m., something like that. You know, I imagine some of you have taken this flight, and it's horrible. One can't really sleep, so therefore one gets here like a zombie, so that as if you weren't, I wouldn't remember why I feel so bad. I should be in hospital, perhaps. So therefore, the first thing that I must say as regards your question is that there are several things that I feel, and looking back, I feel very proud of some of the things that I've done from a very childlike and young drive and very contestatory, for example. And something is Ambulante, the documentary film that we have in Mexico, which travels through 16 cities in the country. It's a festival that's now, next year will be its 12th edition next year. It's a festival that's working quite well, and more than 100,000 people go to see documentaries, and that is enormous. And that, as I said, the documentary genre exists commonly within the audiences in Mexico. We had to generate a culture of documentary cinema. Why? Because that's the cinema that's most made, films that are most made. So therefore, they're the films that are much more easy. It's easier for directors to make. So therefore, there are many, many directors that come from having a hand cam, like the possibility of all the cameras that you have here, and they've started to make films, and some of them were marvelous. And plus, they've opened the possibility up so that can be those issues can be addressed to eliminate the single discourse, which is the main issue in a documentary. Ambulante is one of the many ideas that occurred to us at a given moment in life. We have 23 or 24 years old when it occurred to us, and all of a sudden we came along with an attitude to ask for resources so that we could get the money to make the festival and to hold it. But that was, of the 10 ideas, the only one that perhaps really worked and it had the reason for being. The others were ideas, continue to be very good ideas, but they're not plausible. They can't be made. For example, the idea of making a TV series, a long chapter, an hour and a bit long, in each state of the Republic, 32 states in Mexico, for example. The streaming didn't exist at that time. Those possibilities of platforms that exist nowadays didn't exist then. So therefore, to talk to people who couldn't help us really at this level. And we thought that was an attitude that had to be changed, and we've got to make them change. So therefore, based upon of knocking on the doors time and time again is how things have come out. Ambulante is the first that draws my attention. It's something that I feel proud of, because the fact that I've inherited and I've continued with a culture of friendship as well between Latin American films amongst people and directors in Mexico, like Alfonso Cuarón, Guillermo del Toro, for example, Guillermo del Toro, and they inherited this in turn beforehand from others. There's a feeling of a certain comradeship that takes care of you if you help each other all the time. This is something that we've wanted to maintain consciously as well. On one hand, because we know it's the best way of surviving and also of improving and to make better films, but on the other hand, it's a way to look at the main reason for which we make films. For me, at least, is the fraternal act in itself, and the feeling of forming a part of a family and of being accompanied. And this apparently is not worthwhile what we're doing, but at the end of the day, if a film didn't exist or it wasn't shot film that we were making at that time, nothing happens. No problem. There aren't going to be any demonstrations saying, "Oh, finish the film." No. Nothing happens, but nevertheless, when the film is finished and it obtains a certain transcendence, achieves a certain transcendence, that's when the effort has been worthwhile, and the intense encounter with all of these people flourishes and makes you a friend forever. So therefore, you're almost a cousin, a lover, a father, son of all of those people that you've worked with. It's a beautiful feeling. It's a mixture of fluids, which is very, very nice. Thank you. Next question, please. We thought it was very important that we create a prize to Latin films, in Latin American film in San Sebastian. I want to ask you something which is obvious, but what do you feel like being the first person to receive this prize? Well, I feel very proud, and I was thinking how to respond to the question of what you feel like, because it's not been given to me yet or awarded to me yet. It seems like I'm not too sure. We'll see what happens. What I feel. But there are many things that are very good about all of this affair. That is to say, that there exists a focus, and I imagine focusing upon Latin American film and what Latin American films mean. That includes Spain and Portugal at the end of the day as well, because many people from here work there, bro. We work all over the world. We've got to talk. We're almost speaking the same language, so therefore we've got to eliminate our provincialisms that we manage, that say that our films can't be seen in different places of the world. And what's really funny as well is that it's a brand that I can't reproduce. Very few Latin Americans can produce, really, but I'm not too sure. But that's the fun side of it, because I'll imagine that the brand will have to change a name. I don't know. Make it a bit easier, but it's a very complicated name. I don't even dare say the name of the prize because I'm sure I wouldn't be able to pronounce it correctly. But that's something that it's fun. What's fun about this? Well, there exists an enormous amount of prizes in films, and there's no industry. There's too many awards, and everyone self-congratulates this. Everyone, yeah, self-congratulation occurs too much. And I say quite often that we forget the main reason, that is to generate a certain of added value for the industry and so on and so forth. But the meaning of these types of things is something which is quite special and beautiful at the same time. I remember the first time that I came here was with Amores Perros. This was a long time ago. I was very young then. I remember I had a different voice than I have now because I was, what you're going to see a clip this evening in the presentation of the award ceremony, and my voice was completely different. I can't believe it. But the hotel was different also as well. And the room was a bit larger, if I recall correctly. The Cursal was a place that looked much larger to me back then for the first time I came. So there's something like looking at the damages and of all of these experiences, these brotherly experiences, for example. Inevitably, I remember the first meetings that I had with people who had made films in Spain, with someone who made films in Argentina or films in Brazil. That awakening for me, that journey to something that I never thought I would do. The truth is, it wasn't too clear to me to make films. It wasn't too clear from the beginning. And as of the third film is when I said, hey, listen, I'm going to take this seriously. This is going to be my profession. I think this is the path I'm going to take. And before then, for me, it was like an adventure, an experience, and something that I didn't want to miss. It's a way of learning and to travel throughout the world in a very particular and beautiful way. So San Sebastian forms part. It's one of the main points on that map. So therefore, in the adventure, when a group goes out on adventure and they come to the first place, and the first place is beautiful, and that's San Sebastian for me. So then there were other more difficult places that I've had to travel to, but San Sebastian always has that kindness, that perfect measure. It's an incredible city, and I'm excited with the idea maybe of living here forever. I love it since I came here the first time. I was always being fascinated about it. There's something that took me in this place. I'm not too sure what to say. I don't want to say it because everyone will want to come over here and live here, and I don't want that. It's a secret that I want to keep for myself. Okay. Next question, please. Hi. First of all, congratulations for the prize that you're going to receive, despite everything. You've spent many years making films. Amores Perros was your first film. You were well known throughout the world, and then you've participated in films from many different countries, including your neighbors in the north. I persistently would like to talk to you about that. From Amores Perros, from now, many years have gone by. How do you see the transformation of Mexican films, and how do you feel the weight of your neighbors from the north that are very powerful in this film industry? Well, it's very little what I've worked, the truth be said, in comparison with the big cinema careers that are people that have been working for many, many years and that have seen how cinema and films have developed and how they've magnified and how they've been reduced in some of the cases as well. I still had to film where the kinos of love, these are these cold spotlights that aren't as large, but they're easier to fold up and they can be transported easier. That's made making films much cheaper. And then for the sets were very hot. There was too much hot. It was just too hot. You ended the film and there was very big spotlights and powerful lighting, and it made you very hot when you filmed. I mention this as an example of many things that have changed. When we made Amores Perros, we filmed 1 or 2 takes maximum. We did it with short ends, like short ends Titanic. I know the word, it rings a bell, Titanic, like short ends, for example. Move over there because I can't see him. I remember where there are no cameras on mobile phones, and it was a different stage of the game in filmmaking, where the filming culture, the accessible culture of what one could do with what you have in your hand was completely different. That is to say, it was another rhythm when you filmed. I remember when we did Motorcycle Diaries, we were able to see the beginning of the end of all this, where another period started, a new stage. Now everything is much faster. When you say the camera's running, I don't know, corre cámara doesn't sound too good here in Spain, or camera on. So when they say that, the rigor that existed in the past doesn't exist. And before, when the camera was shooting, that was the moment where everybody had to be perfect because everything worked. But now with digital, everything is different. We don't have to expect that the camera works or not. We can adjust things while the camera's working and operating and recording. It's not even recording. I don't know what it's called, digitalizing or whatever the word is. It's not even filming anymore, is it? So therefore, all of those changes are substantial because the way in which they've democratized themselves much more, the way films are made. The first film that I made was one of the 6 films that were made that year in Mexico, Amores Perros. Imagine, from a film industry 50 years ago that made more than 100 and something films a year to only make 6 in 1 year, with an audience and a film culture which is quite large. It was a revolution. Now we are increasing, and we're still way short of the amount of people that live, and cinema theaters and films that are in Mexico, and the film culture in Latin America, where there's still room to grow. We're still quite immature, and we've still got a lot to grow. So it's an interesting moment. Before, the films in the US at a given time obtained, were much more, it was easier to enter. In the US, they buy less and less films in another language. And if they buy them for very little money. And that hasn't helped our films having that other way out, where at a specific moment, it was about 10 years time, it was in a period of 10 years, it was a window, an open window for us, like a shop window getting into the United States. But many things have changed. But I think what hasn't changed, and I would like to emphasize, is that the fact that our films have to be seen in our own countries, it's like asking for help. I'm not too sure. I don't know how to describe this. But there's got to be some way. All of the initiatives are going to work. They're going to help for your films to be seen. But we need, for there to exist, a much more aggressive cultural policy. Not more aggressive, but I'd say to set up a path so that our films can be seen, so that the Mexican films can be seen in Spain, the Spanish films can be seen in Ecuador, the Ecuadorian films in Argentina and Peru, and the Peruvian ones in Chile, and so on. So therefore, we think we need that. Only in that way are we going to be able to grow more, and we're going to be able to work much more and to venture to deal with very incredible stories, because we're quite limited. Still, at the moment, a story with a very high budget, with epic ambitions. In Spanish, it's difficult. to make money to do that. And there's nothing sadder to say, well, let's do it in English. That's truth. It's horrible, isn't it? That's when everything, all the magic falls to pieces, because you're making a product, but you're not doing this, you're not jumping at this leap of faith. That is to say, it's something to sell. If someone wants to do it, all well and good, but I don't think that's the reason we make films, the majority of us that make films. Thank you very much, Gael. And now, while we receive the rest of the crew and the cast, let's give him a round of applause.